evaluación oral.
Uh, Actually, I'm glad that Argentina won. Estoy feliz que haya ganado Argentina. I'm sorry.
So,
Poor Ronaldo. Poor Ronaldo. Have you watched that video? That TikTok? The girl saying that. Where's Ronaldo? Where is
no.
Ronaldo? He's in his car crying. Poor Ronaldo. Sorry, he got disqualified. FIFA no. Guys, before we start, do you have any questions? Any questions before we start?
No.
No questions. Okay, so as I mentioned, today we're going to have the last topic to cover. Tomorrow we have the oral evaluation, and on Thursday we have the final exam. So as I told you, we're going to have just one chance to do the final exam. Okay. And you would have completed the platform, because I don't want you to have an inconvenience or teacher, mire, me puede dar tiempo. No, guys. So every single day I tell you to complete the platform, or at least to catch up. And if you have questions, there is the WhatsApp group. You can help yourselves. And I mean, I'm there most of the times, but sometimes I'm kind of busy. So that's the reason that I take like a little long, or I take a while to answer your messages. But let's start. If there is no question, so we have to continue. Now this is pre-intermediate. Okay, so we will be talking about infinitives and gerunds. You will see this topic is very easy. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of easy. So we have introductions. Let's see. No, wait. So I'll ask you some random questions. Let's see, Calero. Let's see.
Uh-huh.
This question. What's something you're proud of?
Um, I'm proud of I finished my university.
Very good. Excellent. If I ask you this question, Fatima, how would you answer it? What's your marital status?
Single.
Very good. Adriana, do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have two sisters.
Excellent. Let's see, Edwin, what experience do you have?
Uh, I has been like boss of factory. I know.
Okay, thank you. Alex, are you an organized person?
Yes, I think I am an organized person.
Very good. Claude, how often do you use social medias? Claude, how often do you use social media? Claude? Santiago, how often do you use social media?
Um, always, because I'm always looking for new memes on Facebook.
Memes, new
Meme.
memes, perfect. Excellent. So let's continue with the topic. So as I told you, today we are going to be talking about infinitives versus gerunds. Please pay attention because in some situations we can use both, especially with some verbs. Okay, so but what's the difference between infinitives and gerunds? Like in context, especially. Let's watch this video.
Look at the SL library. Gerunds and infinitives. What are gerunds and infinitives? Gerunds and infinitives are words with a verb meaning. They function as nouns in a sentence. Gerunds are formed by adding ing to the base form of the verb. For example, reading, singing, and walking are gerunds. Infinitive verbs are formed with the word to and the base form of the verb. For example, to eat, to sleep, and to study are infinitive verbs. The basic sentence pattern in English is subject, verb, object. Subjects and objects are usually nouns, but gerunds and infinitives can also function as the subject or object of a sentence. For example, in the sentence, snowboarding is her favorite sport, the gerund snowboarding is the subject of the sentence. In the sentence, he likes reading, the gerund reading is the object of the sentence. In the sentence, they need to study, the infinitive to study is the object of the sentence. How do we know when to use gerunds and infinitives in English? There are 3 basic rules for gerunds in English. There are also 3 basic rules for infinitives in English. Some verbs are always followed by a gerund. Common verbs followed by a gerund are consider, discuss, enjoy, finish, keep, practice, quit, recommend, and suggest.
So just remember that if you want to use another, let's suppose that you want to use an activity or you want to mention, I enjoy comer, for example. Yo disfruto comer. So in that case, this will be the main verb of the sentence. And the gerund will become the object. So I enjoy eating because we don't say I enjoy to eat. It's impossible. Or for example, quit. Let's suppose that I used to smoke, but I don't do it anymore. So I can say, hey, you know what? I quit smoking 2 years ago. I quit. What do you quit? I smoking. So smoking is also my object. So remember, these are going to be the main verbs of the sentence, and the gerund is going to be the object of the sentence. Okay? Hey guys, keep practicing. Hey, I kept practicing my English, so that's the reason I'm very fluent at it. I kept practicing. So as you can see, it doesn't matter which tense we are using. We always use a gerund after these verbs. Okay, gerunds, no infinitives. You don't say I enjoy to cook, I enjoy to go, I enjoy to practice, I enjoy to have. No, it is impossible. Let's see. Café se fue el inter. No worries. Let's continue.
For example, they discussed having a party this weekend. He keeps forgetting to text me. Other verbs are always followed by an infinitive. Common verbs followed by an infinitive are agree, decide, hope, learn, need, offer, plan, promise, and want.
Especially when there is a purpose. So, for example, I need to take a shower, for example. I need to take a shower. We don't say I need taking a shower. No. So with these verbs, we use infinitive all the time. It doesn't matter the tense, it doesn't matter the subject, it doesn't matter the context. We used infinitive with these verbs. Hey, I'm planning to visit my family on Christmas. Want. I want to get a surgery. Offer. She offered me to, I don't know, to earn a lot of money. Okay? Even though I'm placing a pronoun between this and this, we have to follow the same rule. Okay? She offered me. Teacher, pero está usando me. Siempre se tiene que usar el infinitive. Yes. She offered me to earn a lot of money. She wanted me to go to the concert with her. She wanted me to go to the concert with her. Pero, teacher, estamos usando bastantes tú. Es que un tú es el infinitivo, que se le conoce como la particle. And the other two, to the concert, that one is no longer part of the infinitive. That will be considered a preposition. Okay, so let's pay attention. She wanted me to go to the concert with her. So even though I have an indirect object, which is me, I will always have the direct object, which is to go. Okay? Teacher, ¿qué pasa si no le agrego el to? She wanted me go is impossible. She wanted me going, impossible. Okay? So it doesn't matter if we are using a pronoun after these verbs. If you want to use another activity, if you want to mention another action, so it'll be all the time infinitive con el tú y el base form.
For example, she decided to apply for a new job. They offered to help her move. There are a few verbs that can be followed by either a gerund or an infinitive with no difference in meaning. Common verbs followed by a gerund or infinitive are begin, continue, hate, like, love, prefer, and start.
Okay. So after these verbs, we can either use gerunds or infinitive, but we have to be very careful because sometimes depending on the object, if either it is a gerund or infinitive, the meaning may change, especially with start. If we use start with a gerund, the meaning may change when we use an infinitive. So for example, I can say, I like going to the gym. I like to go to the gym. That's fine. I hate taking a shower in the morning. I hate to take a shower in the morning. It is the same. I love playing soccer. I love to play soccer. The same.
For example, I like listening to music, or I like to listen to music. Let's continue talking about this. or let's continue to talk about this. The subject of a sentence is usually a gerund. For example, gardening is my favorite hobby. Meeting new people isn't always easy. After an adjective, we usually use an infinitive verb. For example, I was sad to see my test score. Is it difficult to make a cake? After a preposition, we usually use a gerund. For example, I thought about taking piano lessons.
This is what I've been telling you all this time. So after prepositions, we use gerunds. We cannot use infinitive because we cannot say, I thought about to take, because I have a preposition and I will have another. Actually, that will not be considered preposition, but particle, but it may sound really weird.
Did you plan on calling me back? After a noun or pronoun, we almost always use an infinitive verb. For example, the librarian told the students to be quiet. We asked them to go to the beach with us. Look at the sentence and the verb provided. Say or write the sentence using a gerund or an infinitive verb. For example, call me when you finish cleaning. Now you try.
Edwin Garcia.
Uh, the teacher told to study every night.
¿A quién?
The teacher told the student to study every night.
Very
The
good.
teacher told the students to study every night.
Santiago.
Uh, uh, he promised
He
to
promised.
he promised to take his sister to the beach.
Okay.
He promised to take his sister to the beach.
Good.
Golazo.
Calero.
Singing always cheers me up.
Singing always cheers me up.
Adriana.
They considered moving to a new city.
They considered moving to a new city.
Excellent. Fatima.
It is important to get enough sleep every night.
It is important to get enough sleep every
Excellent. So just remember that we are using the infinitive because we have, what is this? Important. What is this? This is an adjective. This is considered an adjective. So based on the information that we just watched, whenever we have an adjective, we almost always use an infinitive, okay? And especially when we have it is important, it is necessary, it is dangerous, it is not good, whatever. Whenever we are following this structure, it plus be plus adjective, we almost always use infinitives.
Unite.
Alex,
Mm, We're talking about starting our business.
repeat, we,
We talked about
uh-huh.
starting our own business.
Excellent. Just the pronunciation of this verb is talked. We talked about starting our own business. ¿Y quién se desconectó?
We talked about starting our own business.
You
Thanks
se
for
desconectó.
watching.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about a special kind of noun.
Okay.
What kind of things can be nouns?
People, places, and things.
Sure. Also animals,
Yeah.
ideas and emotions,
Okay.
and activities and events.
Really? Events make sense, like a concert or an earthquake or something. But activities? I thought those were verbs.
Well, actions are verbs, but activities are nouns.
Can you give me an example?
All right. What are some of your hobbies?
Well, I like reading and camping, pottery, and collecting stamps.
Okay, cool. What are other things you enjoy?
Pizza, movies, my family, and dogs.
Now, what kind of words are these? Pottery, pizza, dogs.
They're nouns.
All of them?
Well, they have to be, right? We use them all the same way.
That's true. But look at this. 3 of your hobbies end with ing.
Wait, I thought only verbs end with ing. Oh, and what if we take the ing away? Read, camp, collect, they're all definitely verbs.
You're half right. The root of these words are verbs.
But
They only stay verbs when you add ing to the end, if you also have to be in front. Without it, the words can be a different part of speech, like nouns.
Huh, I haven't thought of that.
Hey, let's pay attention to this information. It's actually really good how they explain this. So, depending on the context and the elements that we are using in a sentence, we can change the meaning of many things. For example, we have the ing form for company, but in this case, because we're using the verb to be, this is taking the use of a verb. What about this one? This is an adverb. We never got to reset competing against. And this one is an adjective because it is modifying athletes. Okay, the competing athletes refused. So this is an adjective. And this one is a noun. Competing makes me very nervous. Okay, so we are talking about the activity itself. Okay, so depending on the context and the elements that we use in the sentence, we can change the meaning of this. So what is the only noun? I mean, what is the only gerund here? Where is the only gerund? ¿Cuál es el único gerundio?
In the case, it's the verb.
I wouldn't say so. Calero.
Why me? I
Uh,
think it's competence makes me nervous, very nervous,
nervous.
nervous.
Let's see.
Like nouns.
Huh, I haven't thought of that. I guess we do that with other endings. We can turn a word into a different part of speech.
Yep. And right now we're talking about turning a verb into a noun by adding ing to
All
the
right, let's pay attention. We are turning a verb into a noun by adding ing. So we always use the same rules as in present progressive. So that's the reason that we are adding another P here, because we are actually applying the same rules. Shop, shopping. So we have a consonant, vowel, consonant. So whenever we have that pattern, we need to double the last letter, which is P in this case. So shop, shopping.
end. We call these gerunds.
Okay, I see the verb part, but what makes them nouns?
It all depends on how they're used. How do we use nouns?
Well, they can be subjects, which means they're doing the verb, or they can be objects, which means they're affected by the verb.
Or can complement the verb. Let's take a look at gerunds in all of these roles.
Okay.
Here are some example sentences with some blanks. We can fit any number of nouns into those blanks, but why don't you think of some activities that work?
Sure. I could say a noun like football requires strength and endurance, or I could use a gerund like rock climbing.
Right. Both of those nouns are activities, and both act as a subject. But unlike football, the word rock climbing comes from a verb, so it's a gerund.
And we need to make sure it ends with ing.
Exactly. How about another one?
This kitchen could use some bigger cupboards.
Sure, that's a perfectly fine direct object. What's an activity you could do to the kitchen?
You could clean it.
Okay, so if we wanted to use clean as a noun,
we add ing. This kitchen could use some cleaning.
Cupboards was not an activity, but cleaning is. Either way, they are nouns that act as objects because they are acted upon by the verb.
We could do the same fill-in-the-blank process for nouns in any part of the sentence, right?
Right.
Okay. This is actually very interesting for you to know, especially this subject, subject complement, direct object, indirect object, and object of the preposition. So an object can be also a person, a noun, a place, whatever. But in this case, we're going to be focusing on gerunds only. Okay, ing. So some students get confused because they think like this. They are trying to translate this like really literal, like a great way to exercise is swimming. A great way, una gran forma de ejercitarse es nadando. Sounds weird. But what happens if I say una gran forma de ejercitarse es la natación? Sounds better, right?
See that while gerunds look,
In this case, this one is considered object of the preposition because we have a preposition here. So all this will become object of the preposition.
like verbs on their own, they act as nouns in the sentence, and that's what's important.
Got it.
Check out this last sentence. So far we've talked about activities, but we can make gerunds out of stative verbs as well.
That makes sense.
Let's go back to rock climbing. Some gerunds, just like some verbs, have a word at the beginning that modifies the base verb.
It's not just any kind of climbing, it's rock climbing.
Yeah, and we can do the same with stamp collecting, wood carving, and more.
I see.
A gerund phrase can also include words later, like objects of the original verb, or prepositional phrases.
Like watching television or singing in the rain.
Great examples. However you would put those words together in a verb phrase, you use the exact same way for a gerund phrase.
Gotcha.
But since gerunds act as nouns, you can modify them with adjectives, or specify them with determiners.
Determiners?
Yeah, like articles, possessive words, demonstratives, and quantifiers.
Oh, I see. These are things you can put with any other noun,
Right.
but not with verbs.
No, and that's what makes gerunds special. They have the properties of both verbs and nouns.
But ultimately, it's nouns that they act like.
Yes.
Okay, so if we take a verb and add ing at the end, we can then use that word or its phrase as a noun. And that's what gerunds are?
You got it.
Cool.
Guys, do you have any questions? Any questions? No? Okay, let's continue.
No.
Easy, right? Easy peasy. So this is something that we already know. Infinity versus gerunds. The structure, which is 2 plus verb. I wouldn't say verb, I would say base form. And then we have verb plus ing. So we have eating, living, running. To eat, to live, to run. Help me with this, please, Calero.
Infinitives are often used when actions are unreal, abstract, or future. He wants to swim. Many verbs can only be followed by an infinite
Infinitive.
infinitive. Agree, decide, fail. Some verbs can use both the infinitive or the gerund. Start, love, like, prefer. Some can be used with both, but it changed the meaning. Try,
It
stop,
changes.
changes the meaning. Try, stop, forget.
Very good. Help me with this part. Who? Fatima.
Gerunds. The gerund form is verb plus ing. Eating, living, and running. Gerunds are often used when actions are real, fixed, or completed. I enjoy cooking. Gerunds are used to make a verb the subject. For example, running is good exercise.
Mhm.
Many verbs can only be followed by an gerund. For example, enjoy, miss, suggest.
There's a mistake here. Aquí por eso se
Yeah.
pausó, ¿verdad? It is by a gerund. Very good. Continue.
Right. Prepositions are followed by gerunds except for but. For example, I'm afraid of going.
Very good. But actually, but is not considered a preposition. But in this case is a conjunction. So, no sé por qué pusieron esto aquí. But no es una preposition. But is a conjunction. So, let's see. Verbs that change meaning. Forget. About the future, don't forget to lock the door. About the past, I will never forget going to Disney the first time. Okay, so as I told you, depending on this, the meaning of the sentence will change. So whereas when we use infinitive, we talk about the future. When we use gerunds, we talk about the past. Help me with this part, Fiorella. Need.
Need. It is necessary. He needs to call his parents. Passive voice. The house needs cleaning.
Perfect. Regret. Flor.
Regret. To tell bad news. We regret to tell that the flight is canceled and not happy about the past action. I regret being late to class.
Very good. I regret being late to class. Perfect. Remember. Adriana.
About the future, remember to water the plants. About the past, I remember leaving my phone in the taxi.
Excellent. So remember and forget are kind of similar. Stop. Alex.
Um, in order to something, to do
To
something.
some-
Stop the use the restroom to end an activity. I stopped eating junk food.
Excellent. In order to do something, I stopped to use the restroom. I stopped talking over the phone because I had to prepare my food, for example. To end an activity, something that you no longer do. I stopped eating junk food. I stopped going to the gym, for example. I stopped smoking. I stopped drinking beer. Try. Do something not easy. I will try to lose weight. Yeah, actually, this is very complex. Test or experiment. I tried taking aspirin, but I didn't help. But it didn't help. Okay. Test or experiment. Sabes que intenté tomar aspirina, pero no funcionó. Do something not easy. Traté. Intenté. Traté. Traté de perder peso. Intenté tomar. Verbs with a similar meaning in gerund or infinitive. We have can stand, continue, hate, like, love, prefer, start. Well, sometimes you may change this. Start. So if you want, you can take a picture of this because you will use it a lot. So we have, no, just lo voy a tomar mejor, lo voy a mandar al grupo. Give me 1 second. Okay, so these are some verbs that are followed by the infinitive form and this one by gerunds. So we have admit, advise, appreciate, avoid, can help, whatever. Agree, appear, ask, be able, care, decide, and so on. Calero, number 1.
They want to find gold in the mountains.
Adriana,
Sally enjoys having a picnic at the park.
Luis,
Me?
you are the only Luis.
Oh, really? Okay. Uh, would you mind on the phone? It's too hard. Would you mind turning on the fan?
The fan, it's hot.
Lazo.
Y está viendo el partido, en serio.
No.
Santiago,
Lo
help
vi
me
en la
with this
tarde.
one.
No, yeah, okay. And always promises.
Promises.
Promises. Sorry. And uh, I guess he's calling. No.
To call.
To call.
Let's see. Calero,
Okay.
how would you translate this sentence? Si hubieras puesto atención en la clase, no te habrías equivocado.
¿Qué?
How would you translate that sentence?
Ah.
Si hubieras puesto atención en clases, no te habrías equivocado.
Si hubieras puesto atención en clase, no te hubieses equivocado. If you might pay attention to the
No.
class. If,
Preconditional.
if you have pay attention to the class, you will have not.
You wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have made a mistake.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fatima.
My parents won't allow me to go to the party.
Very good. Flor.
he apologized for the face, but she was angry. All right, el que comen. He apologized for breaking the vase, but she was angry.
Very good. Alex.
Hmm. I being asked. Hmm, I being asked cleaning the mess from the party. I been I been asked to clean the mess from the party.
Excellent. Edwin.
Well, coach, sorry, I have a question. Why in
Yes.
the previous sentence, it is to clean, it was to clean, sorry. Uh-huh.
This one to clean
Yes. Why?
because of the verb ask.
Yes.
Ask is always followed by an infinitive,
An
never
infinitive.
by an ing form or gerund. No.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Edwin. Edwin Garcia.
Hello.
Ajá.
Sorry. Well, he practiced uh, playing the piano every day after the school.
Very good. Let's see. Calero. Number one,
Okay.
what have you stopped doing recently?
Let me think. Um, I don't know. I stopped to procrastinate. What? I don't know.
I've stopped to
Procrastinating.
procrastinate.
I stopped procrastinating.
Very good.
I
Si
knew it.
hubiera puesto atención, no te hubiera
Noble, noble.
equivocado.
Santiago, what do you want to do on your next
Oh.
vacation?
Uh, I mean, I'm a lazy man.
Uh-huh.
I want to spend all my day sleeping and playing.
Excellent. Very good. Number three, have you ever refused to help someone, Fatima?
Yes, I have. Refuse helping someone. This is
Refused
correct.
helping.
Refuse to help someone.
What is something you are thinking of doing next year, Flor?
Well, I had to improve my knowledge in mathematics and the logic of programming. So that's something I had to do the next year.
Okay, very good. What do you feel like eating for dinner tonight, Fatima? No, Adriana. What do you feel like eating for dinner tonight?
I feel I feel good.
Okay, let's understand the question. So, hey, teacher, what do
Yeah,
you feel like eating for dinner tonight? I feel like eating pupusas for dinner tonight. So, what's the meaning? Hey, ¿de qué tienes ganas de comer esta noche? Tengo ganas de comer pupusas. Esta noche para la cena, what do you feel like eating for dinner tonight, Adriana? I feel like eating.
I feel like eating French fries
Uh-huh.
for dinner tonight.
Excellent. What is something you keep doing even though you don't like it? Taures.
I keep sleeping 8 hours.
Okay, very good. Where do you hope to be 10 years from now? Edwin.
I hope to be um, in other countries, I think.
Excellent. But be careful with the pronunciation of this because I heard I hot. Esto escuché yo. I hot. It is I hope. I hope to be in another country in 10 years. Very good. What have you decided to do with your life, Calero?
I don't know. I don't know. Finish it.
Fátima, what have you decided to do with your life? Ya lo voy a sacar de la clase.
I haven't decided what to do with my life. Thank you.
Excellent. I haven't decided what to do with my life yet. Perfect. Okay. So we have choose infinitive or gerund for the verbs in the boxes. So you're going to read one sentence and you're going to decide whether to use infinitive or gerund. Number one, Adriana.
My friend Bernardo wants to eat McDonald's hamburgers.
Very good. Continue, Taures.
He had a problem. He was gaining weight. He decided to go
Uh-huh.
on a diet.
Excellent. Continue, Edwin.
He stopped um, getting fast food and learned to buy more fruit and vegetable.
Excellent. Continue, Fatima.
After a month, he had lost a few pounds, but he considered dropping more.
Excellent. Very good. Guessing, but that was excellent. Adivinando.
Yes.
Continue, Fiorella.
I suggested to join a gym. I joined. Oh no.
I suggested joining a
join.
gym. After suggest, we use gerund.
Okay.
Let's see. Continue, Flor. Bernardo.
Bernardo dislike to do exercise.
Aquí no estamos usando to do.
Exercising.
So
he agreed to try it.
very good. Very
Okay.
good. Guessing, but okay. Santiago.
But he agreed to try it. Now he exercises every day and he looks better. He's looking forward to lose more weight.
Okay. This is actually an idiom to look forward to. And it's weird because we use ing form after idioms or phrasal verbs. Después de los verbos frasales, siempre se usa gerundio. So in this case, I will say it is he's looking forward to losing more weight.
Oh.
Don't forget to write.
Okay, repeat the phrase and say how the gerund or infinitive is used. Calero.
Don't forget to write.
Don't forget to write or write.
Excellent.
Right.
Don't forget to write. Forget
Okay.
about the future.
And I'll never forget visiting a home of one of my kids.
Adriana.
And I'll never forget visiting a home of one of my kids.
Could you play a game, please?
And I'll never forget visiting a home of one of my kids.
And I never forget visiting my
Okay.
kids.
Very good. And I'll never forget visiting a home of one of my kids. So this forget is about a past event. I'll never forget. Puchica, yo nunca voy a olvidar esto. Okay, I'll never forget visiting a home of one of my kids. Oh.
You need to eat.
That was easy. Taures.
You need to eat, I think.
Yes, very good. You need to eat.
If there's anything that needs fixing in my life.
Edwin.
It is anything to fix in my life.
If there's anything that needs fixing in my life.
Oh.
If there's anything that needs fixing in my life. So in this case, need is in passive voice. So that's the reason that we don't say that needs to fix. No, if you want to use, actually, this is kind of weird, to be honest, because if you want to use infinitive in this case, you will say something like, if there is anything that needs to be fixed in my life. But that's very complex. I don't want to say that because it's very long. So I'll keep it simple. I'll say, if there is anything that needs fixing in my life.
We regret to inform you.
Fatima.
We regret to inform you.
Perfect.
Do you regret going?
Fiorella.
Do you regret going?
Could you please repeat it?
Do you regret going?
You're by gone, I think.
Do you regret going?
You regret going. Okay. Regret a past action. So, do you regret going?
Do you regret going?
Do you regret going?
Yeah, actually, he didn't mention this. Well, actually, actually he did, but he contracted this. So
Yes,
it only
he
sounded
said,
like do.
He said, you regret going.
Do you regret going?
Yes.
Stop to get some gas and
Flor.
stop to get some gas and
Stop it.
stop to get some gas and
Stop to get some gas.
Stop
to get some gas
Yes.
and
some what?
stop to get some gas
¿A qué se
and
refieren? Stop
stop
some
to get
gas.
gas and
Stop to get some gas.
Gasolina. Gas. ¿Qué gas?
stop to get some gas and
Yeah, actually, I don't know. We need more context. I don't know what he's talking
Yeah.
about here.
Ya le explico.
No, thank you.
Stop drinking the water.
Easy. Luis.
Stop drinking the water.
Stop drinking the water. Stop an activity.
Remember leaving the town meeting?
Calero.
Play again.
Remember leaving the town meeting?
Remember leaving the town meeting.
Very good. Remember, no, he didn't mention I. He only said,
Yeah.
remember leaving the town meeting. Perfect. And that's it. Any questions?
No.
It
I
was
have,
Aha, tell me.
in English, we can, in a sentence, we can use three verbs in the same sentence.
Yes. Yes.
And we use the same rules of gerunds and infinitive.
Yes. Yes. Ujú. Siempre, no importa cuántos of head objects you want to use, you need to respect the rules. Supongamos que usted empieza usando un verbo, por ejemplo, así, mire. Aunque va a sonar bien extraño. ¿Cuántos tengo? 1, 2, 3. But the main verb is this one. This one is considered an object, and this one is another object. So I like enjoying spending time with my family. Even though this sounds really weird, it is still possible. I'm still applying the rules. But what happens if I don't want to use ing form? What happens if I want to use to enjoy? It is still possible in this case because remember, the like may carry a gerund or infinitive. So I like to enjoy. Pero teacher, después de enjoy, se tiene que poner ing. ¿Aplico la misma regla o le pongo I like to enjoy to spend? No, it's impossible in this case. Hasta esto me está diciendo que hay un error, mire. Spending. Because after enjoy, we need to use gerund. So I like to enjoy spending time with my family. The only one that I can change here is enjoy. Porque después de like, puedo usar un infinitivo o un gerundio. So I don't want to use a gerund. I want to use an infinitive. So I like to enjoy. In this case, spending no puede ser cambiado. ¿Por qué? Porque le preside el enjoy. Okay. Let's see. What happens if I want to say, I want to learn English to communicate with others. So I have want, learn, to communicate. But teacher, why can we use communicating in this case? Because we are using infinitive to give a purpose why we are doing something. Hey, what is the reason that you are learning English? To communicate with others, to travel around the world. To. Entonces este to significa para. Ya me le está dando un propósito. Y también, and it is still an infinitive. So even this is telling me the communicating is around here. So it is to communicate. So I'm still applying the rules. What happens if I remove English? La regla siempre se va a aplicar. I want to learn to communicate with others. Main verb, object, object. Okay. Puede learn carrear un carrear un gerundio.
Carry on bancos.
Sorry. Guys, can I place a gerund after to learn? Nunca. Ni de want, tampoco. Ya van a ver cómo esto me va a decir que está wrong. I want learning, communicating. Makes no sense. The sentence make no sense. So as you can see, this is correcting me this and this. I want to learn to communicate with others. Okay. Y si estoy, mire cuánto estoy usando. 1, 2, 3. But as I mentioned, the main verb is going to be, el verbo principal siempre va a ir a la par del sujeto. Okay. More questions?
No, thank you.
Is it clear? ¿Está claro?
Yes.
I need to study too much, I think.
Not too much, but a lot. Yeah. I'll send you this video because this was about infinitives. No, vamos a verlo ahorita. Es corto, creo que solo dura 50 segundos.
Hi, I'm Dan from BBC Learning English, and today I'm going to talk to you about infinitives of purpose. English has something called the infinitive of purpose. We use it to explain why we do something. To explain why we do something is an infinitive of purpose. Why do we use it? Another example is, I went home to eat. We make
So
our...
what was the reason? What was the reason that you went home? To eat. So that's the purpose. Okay, so we're adding purpose to the sentence. Even though we're using infinitive, we're still, I mean, we are using it like no as an object, but to give purpose. Para darle como que el propósito del que nosotros hicimos algo. Yo me fui a la casa para comer. Yo estudio para viajar. And so on. Entonces ya el infinitive ya le está dando el significado de propósito. ¿Por qué algo se está ejecutando o haciendo?
Sentence, I went home, and then attach a full infinitive verb, to eat. This doesn't work with nouns. For example, I went home to food. To use a noun, we use for. I went home for food. Finally, we can also use for to talk about doing something to help someone. For example, I made this video for you to learn. You're welcome.
Okay, no questions?
No.
This was actually the last topic of this phase. Bueno, de todo el curso ya. Este fue el último tema de todo el curso.
No, profe, mire, yo